Yorkshire Creamery, describing it as the only large-scale liquid milk dairy in Wales since Wrexham-based Tomlinson's went bust in 2019. But we've had an email from Lawrence Harris, who politely pointed out there is another creamery in Wales, also in Haverfordwest in fact. Mark Hunter Limited also bottles Welsh milk, and Lawrence knows that because he's the director of Deoni Organic, whose products are processed there. We're sorry we got that wrong. Today is the final day of the Balmoral Show in Northern Ireland, which this year has seen around 120,000 visitors and 4,000 head of livestock gather at the Icon Exhibition Centre near Lisbon. Helen Mark was there for Farming Today and took a look at some of the cattle being prepared for the show ring.
William McAllister from Kells in Ballymena, County Antrim. We are showing two shorthorn cattle, a yearling heifer and a yearling bull. They're going out now today in a performance recorder class where the animals' visual judging is awarded points, and then they have been weighed and back fat scanned for muscle and fat, and then that's taken into account as well, and then points are put together and then they're placed accordingly.
How important is it to be here and to have these cattle on show?
That's a short window. I've been coming here to was born, so it's a long time, and my family's the same, and my wife's family's the same. We've always been involved in the show. It's a social aspect after, especially this long, hard winter. Everybody's glad to get out and meet people again and socialise.
I'm going to go into the cattle sheds now. People are very busy in here. They're setting out straw in the bays, they're feeding cattle, they're grooming them. There's a young girl over here with two beautiful calves. Hi, have you got a moment?
Yeah.
What is it you have to get done now before you go out into the ring?
They need washed, and then they'll get their top lines all blown up so that they're all like level.
Hello, who are you?
Jessica Hall.
Not a local accent?
No, I'm from the world. I live over here now.
Alright, cattle can't be brought in across the North Sea to here?
Not at the moment, no, with the blue tongue regulations.
How much of a problem is that for cattle
Oh,
breeders?
an awful problem. I actually think there's probably thousands of cattle sitting in England that have been bought to come over here and they can't come. The thing is, you can't do anything about it because it is blue tongue, you know, and it is to try and stop the spread of disease. They can't do anything about it, but I suppose in a way it's helping the trade around Northern Ireland because people can't bring things in, but then at the same time you can't bring the new bloodlines or anything like that in. So hopefully this year, you know, it's happened a little bit.
Well, while she was at the show, Helen spoke to Northern Ireland's Farming Minister Andrew Muir about his plans for post-Brexit farming policy. More details of the Farm Support and Development Programme were released this week. Farmers will still receive some payments based on how much land they farm, like the EU system. This is described as a safety net, and to get the money, farmers will have to do certain things, like taking part in soil health and carbon monitoring programmes. There will also be payments for creating and maintaining habitats under the Farming with Nature package, and a focus on farmers managing nutrient more carefully to reduce water pollution, which was a major cause of algal blooms in Lough Neagh last year.
Agriculture and the environment go hand in hand, and what we want to do over the time ahead is give sustainability for our farming community. And about doing that is about building resilience and that environmental sustainability, because environmental sustainability is at the core of productivity as well. And that's what I am doing over my time ahead as Minister. Earlier this week I announced a feature in terms of the Farm Support and Development Programme for Northern Ireland. And there's a number of different packages and measures as part of that.
But there is some concern perhaps around the details about the farm payment scheme in particular that will be coming in next year. That's 6 or 7 months away. That is not a lot of time for people to plan. So what can you say to them?
So there will be a migration towards this over the months and years ahead. What's absolutely critical in terms of the future of farm support here in Northern Ireland, it's been developed and will continue to be developed through a process of co-design. So that's where environmental groups and farmers are in the room together. We're working together to find solutions towards these issues.
It sounds very positive, but there are huge challenges facing our environment and climate change, which the farming community need a position to address and need to be supported to address. Let's take, for example, the Northern Ireland Assembly have announced that Northern Ireland has become an ecological and biodiversity. There's a crisis here. I've never heard that said in Northern Ireland before. That's a terrible picture.
The picture which we saw last year, for example, in relation to Lough Neagh, was screened not just across Northern Ireland, but across the UK and the world. And that should be an impediment for us, or impetus for us to act in relation to this. And it's absolutely critical that we do act.
There's going to be a safety net in terms of payments to farmers. So for another 12 months at least, it's going to be business as usual, which it doesn't seem to advocate towards making change. Do you not be more ambitious than that?
So I am full of ambition and support. We provide a safety net for our farmers, but we also transition to a sustainable future. And part of that is the Farming with Nature programme. So I'm working with officials and with the sectors around this, farmers, environmental groups, and how we can scope that.
But you've admitted yourself that the Farming for Nature scheme as part of the new situation is actually almost the least developed of the schemes that you are bringing forward.
Yeah, and the difference between this year and last year is you have a minister in post. So I've been in post just over 100 days, and then put in lots of energy to this. We have to change how we do farming here in Northern Ireland. And I'll be working night and day with officials to get these schemes rolled out, because I see farmers who want to engage with them, so I want to give them the opportunity to do that. I want us to be an exemplar, so that people across the UK look to Northern Ireland and say, I want to be a part of that.
We love your positivity, and it's maybe needed, because we've been talking to farmers as we've been going round, and there's a common theme that it's been a very, very difficult year. Terrible wet weather conditions. Production costs have risen. Terrible challenges.
Yeah, there really is. And if people want to talk to me about climate change, it's a reality here today when we're seeing the extreme weather events. And that's why it's really key in terms of future support. We build resilience within the sector, not just to protect the environment and also for farms, but so that they can go to their banks and can borrow and give them security in terms of the future. And that's absolutely key.
Northern Ireland Farming Minister Andrew Muir at the Balmoral Show. Well, farming is devolved, so since Brexit, the four parts of the UK have been coming up with their own plans to replace EU subsidies. This week, the Welsh Government announced a delay in the introduction of their sustainable farming scheme. It won't come in now until 2026. This comes after widespread protests by farmers angry over plans to require 10% of their land to be covered with trees. The Rural Affairs Secretary, Hugh Irranca-Davies, says the decision shows the Welsh Government is listening to farmers, but some wildlife groups have accused the government of kicking the can down the road. Stephanie Messenger is BBC Wales environment correspondent.
Another protest march by farmers this week through Cardiff city centre. A far smaller affair than the demonstrations which spread across Wales in February, including a record-breaking one involving thousands outside the Senedd. But a reminder of the challenge facing the Welsh Government in getting the industry on board with its changes to agricultural subsidies. A push towards greener ways of farming, more trees and wildlife habitats, but one that puts jobs and food production at risk, say some farmers.
I believe firmly that we will have opportunities created in a good scheme.
Recently appointed the new Rural Affairs Secretary, Hugh Irranca-Davies held his first big press conference on Tuesday on a farm in the Vale of Glamorgan, insisting he would listen to farmers' concerns.
My commitment to meaningful engagement with the farming sector and with other stakeholders on the changes needed will necessitate a change in the implementation timetable. We've always said that the scheme will not be introduced until it is ready, and I stand by that.
To allow more time to work through the areas where there's disagreement, the new subsidy scheme's introduction is being delayed by a year to 2026. This big shake-up of agricultural funding was brought about because of Brexit, of course. Farming subsidies used to be controlled from Brussels, and in fact the current main subsidy that farms receive, and which is now going to be extended into next year, is based on that old EU one. Today's announcement means that almost a decade will have passed between the Brexit vote and getting a new subsidy scheme for Wales off the drawing board. Farming unions have been calling for a delay and welcomed the government's announcement, but views on the protest march in Cardiff were mixed.
Even though he's delayed it by a year, he still hasn't said what changes he's making.
I'm not surprised that they have delayed it, because I think, like I said, they need to, because they need to work on the new scheme a lot more. They definitely need to do improvements.
Environment and wildlife groups say they're disappointed by further delay to a scheme that's seen as central to the Welsh Government's efforts to tackle climate change and nature loss. Nature-Friendly Farming Network accusing the Rural Affairs Secretary of kicking the can down the road. Rory Farsis is director of the Snowdonia Society.
The way that farmers are supported has a massive impact on wildlife, on the climate and on the countryside. There is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to actually make a change, to do things better, and for this year at least, unfortunately, it's been missed.
A group including representatives from both the farming and environment sectors will now meet regularly with the Rural Affairs Secretary to try and agree the new scheme's final make.